All right, moving on to number 4. I already took the time to plot the points that I was able to. The last one does not fit on your graph, but I do want to take a second and discuss this first piece of information here. They're telling you at the x value of -4, your j of x function is undefined. Now, that is some good piece of information, but it doesn't exactly tell us what's going on here at this location of -4. Undefined could mean a hole in the graph, it could mean an asymptote in the graph, it could mean that you don't have a graph there at all or anyway. So we need to pay close attention to what the other points on the graph are telling us in terms of the shape of this graph. So at this spot we don't have anything to list, but we do have some other guiding points to help us out. And if you were to plot or draw through the dots that you plotted, you do have a graph that looks very similar to hopefully one that's recognizable to you. This would be a square root graph. Square roots are kind of a half of a parabola on its side. So in this particular instance, the x value at -4, or sorry, the y value at the x value of -4 is undefined because we specifically do not have a piece of graph at that spot. So let's go ahead and try to tackle some properties. The domain of a square root graph can vary. So depending on where this shape is located, whether it be up top or maybe down below and flipped, notice how it would change how you moved your pencil left to right to calculate or find the domain. So we can say changing depending on the function or the graph, but in this particular case, we'll go ahead and tackle the domain. From left to right, I start my graph at -3, and it continues all the way to the right, so we'll go towards infinity. Same thing's going to happen with the range. Depending on where your graph is located, it's going to affect where you drag your pencil, where you start and where you end. So we'll have another changing instance, but for this particular example, from low to high, we start at a y value of -2, and this graph will continue upwards. Even though it looks like it does slowly, it will continue upwards forever. So we'll say -2 to infinity. In terms of discontinuities, we don't have any holes, jumps, or asymptotes. So no discontinuities. We do have changing slopes because clearly a square root function is not a line. So we have a curvature to the graph, which means that we have a change in slope happening. Notice how the slope between these 2 points is 1, but the slope between the next pair of points is 1/3. So it's not the same all the way through. Let's go ahead and try to tackle the equation for this g of x function. I think our best bet with this one is probably using transformations. Typically this beginning spot, like all the other cases, starts at the origin, and this one has been moved left 3 and down 2. So since this is a square root function, we need that symbol in our equation, and if it's moved left 3, we would need an x plus 3, and if it moved down 2, we would need a -2 on the end.